TV. We're going to talk a little bit
And official
about.
start now.
So I'm going to say it again. We're going to talk a little bit about how to brand yourself as a TV writer and how to stand out in that marketplace. But we're gonna before we even start, we're gonna start with a little journal moment. So everyone, either grab your pen and paper or open up a Word document or a Google Doc moment. We're gonna do a couple minutes of just writing about some of these prompts, and I'm gonna give everyone 20 seconds to put all that together, and we're gonna start. In the words of Tristan, hello pitches. We're gonna talk about what the pitch is later. I like pitch slapping everybody around. Just kidding. Um, so everyone got paper, or everyone got a Google Doc or Microsoft Word doc or something. All right, cool, cool. So we're gonna come to these things later on, and if we don't, they'll help you nonetheless. But I just want you to write a little bit, stream of consciously. Why do you write? I'm gonna give you some time to write that. Why do you write? What is the reason that you tell stories? There's no wrong answers. It's different for everyone. But why do you write? And if you're feeling good with where that answer is going, I want you to also write, what types of stories do you write and want to write? Why do you write? And what types of stories do you write and want to write? And lastly, if you could write on 3 TV shows on air currently or in the past year, okay? So I don't want anyone writing The Sopranos, all right? Something recent. In the last year, if you could write on 3 TV shows, what would those 3 shows be? 3 of them. And then when you are done, I want you to throw one of those answers, like one of the TV show answers, into the chat when you're done with all 3 of those questions. Why do you write? What types of stories do you write or want to write? And what current TV shows, 3 of them, would you write on if you could? Once you've got those 3 answers, throw in the chat one of those TV shows that you would love to write on, just so I can know you're done and we can share those answers as well. Nice, nice. We have Abbott Elementary for Stacy Love. We have Abbott Elementary and What We Do in the Shadows for Tony. We have Creep Show for Daniel. I don't know Creep Show. Is that on Shudder?
Yeah, it's an anthology series on Shutter. It's like a reimagining of the original movies. So
Absolutely. Makes
yeah.
sense. Makes sense. We have Bad Sisters for Valerie. Where's that on Bad Sisters?
Yeah.
That's on
It was
Apple.
it was Apple. You're right, not HBO. Yeah, Apple.
That's Apple. I have not watched that. How is it?
Oh,
Everything?
so good. So good. And it's Bono's daughter's in it, and it's filmed right around the corner from where he grew up.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome show.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we have The Bear by Shauna, iconic. And The Cleaning Lady for Olga. I wouldn't have expected that, Olga, but I like that. That is
It's
a great
wild.
network show.
Yeah.
Nice. This is lovely. How was that? How was that journal prompting for everybody? We feel good? We feel like we got some good answers. We're gonna come back to that later, but the first two questions are really going to be your mantra for everything, but also just your way of always coming back to self and being able to talk about yourself and your work in a way that signifies what you bring to the marketplace, right? So much about how many of us are also actors? All right, cool, cool, cool. Awesome. Tony's an actor, so Tony gets this, but if all writers is great, actors do really, really well in TV rooms. That's the reason I asked, because actors have a really great way of identifying what they're selling and what their casting type is. And kind of finding that similar language as a writer is finding not what your casting type is, because it doesn't matter what you're going to play, but what your writing type is, what kinds of stories and pitches you're going to be bringing to the table, which is what you bring to the writer's room, and what kinds of stories you're going to be bringing to the network, or in your portfolio or whatever. So I don't have a good word for what the writer equivalent of casting type is yet. So if anyone wants to come up with a good word for that, we can maybe concoct that together. But actors do really well in TV writing rooms for that reason. They know what they're selling. Um, so a lot of times when you're a TV writer, you kind of have to put on the hat to pretend and start thinking like a director and an actor, because you have to start using those skills that you wouldn't necessarily have to use as a feature writer, because you're branding yourself. Okay. So anyway, a little bit about myself first. I'm a writer, actor, director. I've worked on Broadway, worked in national tours, television internationally. Currently, I'm working on the Strange Loop musical, which is a Tony Award, Pulitzer Prize winning musical. This is the final production of it, out here in Los Angeles until it goes to licensing, where every John, Jim, and Joe can start doing the production after this, basically. But this is the end of the original production, and it's wonderful and it's lovely. And if you get a chance to be in Los Angeles this month, you should come see it. But most recently, I've also worked as the director of brand management and partnerships over at Roadmap Writers, which is how I got involved with BraveMaker, and I'm so, so, so grateful for that. We'll also be at BraveMaker Film Fest, so if you're down July 11th to 14th, those are the right dates. I expect to see you there. We'll probably be doing a little masterclass moment for some of the script competition finalists, and hopefully mix it. We're gonna be there. We'll be there and he'll have a party. Um, but there at Roadmap, I was really blessed to work with so many different writers, including Olga, who took my pitch prep course back then. And numerous of my writer clients have sold shows and have staffed and sold TV movies to the likes of Hallmark, Tubi, Peacock, and various other production companies through some of my coaching. So I'm really, 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 I hold that with a badge of honor. That my favorite writer, not my favorite writer, my favorite story from a writer is he goes, I literally just did what Tristan said and I sold my script. That's the best review I could ask for. That is the best review I could ask for. So point of the story is I've been coaching for a little bit and I'm really, really loving being on the educational side of things, but I'm also a creative as well. So I know what it's like to be on the side of putting all of yourself under a microscope and being able to sell yourself. But I also find a lot of joy in finding within the creatives I work with what is the selling point between each of these different artists and each of these different products to pull out of here to get this project some eyes on it that's going to excite execs and excite people to hop on as a collaboration. Because at the end of the day, when you're selling a project, you're not necessarily it's not a sale, it's an invitation to collaborate, right? And I think that mindset is really, really important when it comes to television, because it takes hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, to create. Um, so knowing that it's an invitation to collaborate, especially if you want to still be on the project. Sometimes it is a sale and it's a I buy this and you don't have anything to do with this ever again, and that's a different story. But I'm most interested for everyone here today is, how do you sell something and be a part of it? And how do you invite people to collaborate on a project to turn something of yours into something bigger with you still at the helm? Um, but what is your brand? Uh, we want to move away from the idea that you can write anything. I'm sure you can, right? I'm so sure you can write anything. But similarly, Tony knows the most successful actors are the actors who know that they cannot play everything, right? It's kind of what separates a hobby actor from a career actor, and a hobby writer from a career writer, is knowing, what am I actually realistically going to write? What am I actually going to get hired to write? What am I going to make money writing? Versus, I can write anything. If you're a jack of all trades, I can do this. I can do horror, and I can do family drama, and I could do genre bending satire, and I could. You're doing too much. You know, you're actually doing too much, because people don't know where to. I hate the idea of pigeonholing, but people don't know where to sell you. It's an oversaturated market. That is the truth of the matter. There are so many writers, there are so many people trying to get these jobs, and when there's an oversaturated market, you have to come up with a niche almost of yourself. Um, this is a terrible example, but it's like OnlyFans, okay? If you have your OnlyFans and you're like, I do everything, you're like, no one's gonna watch your content, but it's like, oh, I do that specific thing. You're gonna build that niche community that's gonna be out there repping you. That was a weird comparison, but something I'm currently dealing with. But but you want to be able to come up with a niche thing that you are known for, so people can pass you around almost and pass your scripts around. What are you selling? You can't write everything. Eventually, you can write everything, but what are you selling? Some of the best creators, who are some of our favorite showrunners, or even feature writers, we can talk about this pretty casually, that you can think of. Names that are just out there, big names. Shonda. What is Shonda known for? Right? Shonda is known for a big world procedurals, right? For a multiverse of procedurals that she can create, right? What is Sam known for, Olga?
Euphoria.
Gritty storytelling.
Yeah.
Right? He's known for authentic, gritty storytelling without any that attacks the taboo and also is quite sexual. Right? If you hire Sam Levinson on a project, you know what to expect. Right? You know what you're gonna get out of that. And if he gives you something different, you're gonna be like, that's not why I hired you. Right? Give me one more. Issa. What is Issa known for? Issa's awkward black girl. Right? She's gonna give you nuanced, strange, funny black female protagonists. And if she doesn't give you that, you're gonna be like, "What are we doing, Issa? That's what you're known for. That's your brand." Ryan Murphy is a whole different story, because I'm obsessed with Ryan Murphy. But what is Ryan Murphy known for? High camp and historical revisions. Right? High camp and revisionist history. That's the right word I was using. I'm fine. So if he's not giving you high camp or revisionist history, he's trying to stretch his brand, which he does often. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't always work, but Ryan Murphy's always trying to stretch his brand. But you can always tell when it's a Ryan Murphy project. And he's also known for colorful worlds, right? Really, really large production budgets that make everything almost a Wes Anderson type of set design, right? But you know what I mean. You say all these names, and you're like, oh, okay, I can imagine what that project's gonna look like. I can imagine what that project's look like. Finding that for you is going to be a part of how to stand apart in the TV marketplace. Um, yes, there are writers who just get the staff job and just want to work on set and just want to do it, right? And have the right connects, and nepotism exists. That's totally a thing. That is totally a thing. But I doubt any of you would be here if your mom was Kate Hudson. I just doubt any of you would be here. So how do we create that energy for ourselves. It's about finding what we are known for, right? Um, we're gonna go around and we're gonna kind of pitch ourselves as a writer first. We're gonna say, who are we as a writer? So right now, I want you to kind of concoct this formula for yourselves. First thing we need I'm gonna call these writer log lines. First thing we're gonna need is your identity or your background, who you are. That's important. Who you are is what you bring to the story, whether you like it or not. So you're going to write down your identity or background in whatever way that applies. I'm going to give you an example of this in a second. Don't worry. Your identity or your background. Then you're going to tell us the types of stories that you write, right? We already journaled about this. The types of stories that you write or want to write. I want you to include your passion or expertise, what you specialize in. Now, that doesn't have to be writing related. That can be, I spent 30 years as a criminal justice lawyer, and you bring that to the storytelling, right? That's your passion expertise. That has nothing to do with writing, but that's an expertise that only you have, right? That can be, I suffered a major injury at the age of 15, and relearning to walk gave me the perspective to write about this, this, and this. That's an expertise that it sounds weird to call that an expertise, but that's an experience that only you can write about and that only you can bring to the table. So you're going to have your identity, your background, the types of stories that you write, which we already journaled about, your passion, expertise, or specific niche experience. And then something I like to do when I talk about myself as a writer to stand out is I like to give myself TV parents and name basically two people that we just put in the chat, two people like that I say, if that person and that person had a baby, they'd look something like what I write. I think that's really, really helpful. Similarly to when you talk about a project and you give tonal comps, giving like a writer comp is really helpful. So I'm going to talk about myself for a second. When I talk about myself and I'm pitching myself for a project, I say I'm a type A stoner playwright and TV writer, helming from the stage as a Broadway musical theater actor and director. I'm a Black, multiracial, genderqueer, millennial sex worker who grew up in a Jesus-loving, fucked up military family. And I write genre-bending dark comedies and dramas that border the lines between cynicism and romanticism. With my absurdist view of the world having been someone who's always lived between labels and between worlds, I often write characters who grapple betwixt realities and struggle to survive between worlds. I always say that I write about contradictory identities and messy sex. But my ultimate goal is to enlighten people on the taboo and normalize the weird. If Ryan Murphy of Glee, Nip Tuck, and American Horror Story, and Michaela Cole of Chewing Gum and I May Destroy You had a baby, it would look a little something like me. So knowing all that about me.
So good, Tristan. So good.
Thank you. But you can tell what I write, right? Right? You can, oh my God, I know what to bring him in for. I'm not bringing him in for a PBS Kids show. Got it. Got it. But that was just my casual way of talking about what is my writer brand? What can you expect when you bring me into a meeting? What kinds of stories can you expect when I'm pitching you ideas? And what types of IP, because this is really what my career has been the last 2.5 years, is production companies bringing me IP to adapt. And they have a book, a video game, synthetic influencer, which was weird when I adopted that, like just random things and ideas that are already pre-established intellectual property that they know, okay, Tristan does the weird shit. Got it. Tristan does the sex forward avant-garde genre bending shit. God, I can bring that to him. Tristan grew up in the Jesus-loving, fucked up military family. I can bring this idea to him. So it's just kind of bringing your parts of yourself out to showcase what am I selling? What am I selling? I hate to use myself as an example because it feels a little masturbatory, but what am I selling to you guys based on what I just told you? What kinds of things would you see this writer, as an example, not as Tristan, is selling from what I just said? No wrong answers.
No, the genre bending, something wild, something provocative, probably
Yeah.
extraordinary, something that does not just belong to one category. So it's really kind of like a new thing. It's not a copy paste. It's not a cliche. It's unique. It's outstanding. It's new. It's fresh. It's juicy. It's let's do it.
Wow. Okay. You want to be a manager? You want to be a manager? But the word I want to say is provocative, right?
Mhm.
Something that's provocative that's gonna make you go, ooh, that makes me feel something. That's to be expected from a writer. Well, Daniel, you unmuted yourself.
Oh, I think you could write for Creep Show.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
have to watch. I have to watch. I do love a horror moment. I do
Uh,
love
it's it's just a great anthology series, and they really let their creators, the writers, go all out with. They can be as gory as they want. They can be as funny as they want with the episodes. They can use animation. They can use live action.
nice.
And it really they really delve deep into like, okay, if you love horror, here's horror, but here's the mess. Here's also what we're trying to say. And I do feel like you would really shine in an avenue like that. So.
Now, Daniel, thank you for that. I'm excited to watch it. Do you want to tell us about what you write and who you are?
Well, I have 3 minutes until my work meeting,
All right,
but
this perfect timing. Give us something.
yeah, I mean, I only jotted down a few notes. But I think
There's no wrong answer to way to do this.
sure.
I just want you to get into the practice.
I think I would like to deal with themes. Well, first of all, I love horror. What's weird, I want to write horror, but in the past, the stuff that I ended up being romantic comedy. So it's weird. I think it just it depends on the actors you work with. Like, oh, okay, maybe probably did. But I think for myself, I would like to write stories about the masks people put on you to make them feel better, but the mask you put on yourself to protect yourself from the world. And it's a constant journey to find a place where you could take off the mask and to go extend past that. If you find that place, do you have to put on another mask um, to live in that world? So masks is a big thing for me. So yeah.
Love that. I love it. Anything else you want to share with us before you hop on to your other work meeting about who you are as a writer and what you're bringing, what you sell?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an API filmmaker, editor, and so I'm all often in that world. But again, I love genre. I love genres. I'm constantly just kind of springboarding from one to the other. Always constantly love horror, but I'm currently in like a high fantasy phase at the moment. So Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, all that. So I think for me, it's just whatever to you know. I love the fantastical. I think that's
The
that's for
fantastical
me. So
and
yeah,
masks. Masks
yeah,
putting on masks to survive, to thrive.
yeah.
Doesn't everyone want to read Daniel now? I mean, I do. But like that's how you have to talk about yourself, right? We're gonna keep going, Daniel. You can leave whenever you need to. But who else wants to tell us kind of what they've concocted as their writer brand? There's no wrong answers here. Great job, Daniel, on that. Totally volunteer. Stacy, what's up?
I can go. So I was bused to schools outside of my neighborhood from the age of 6 years old. So I always knew from the age of 6 that schools were different. My grandmother was a teacher in segregated Virginia. So these two experiences had a profound impact on me. The stories that I tell are kindergarten through public education school stories. They're advocacy and social impact based. So they expose a lot of issues in schools that people don't know about and don't talk about. And so I wanted it to be more advocacy and social impact based. It can be, I hope it's entertaining to people, but that's not my goal at all. So yeah. Oh, I was a teacher for 10 years
That's
across
important.
the
That's important.
yeah, across the US and abroad. And then I also went to law school. So I kind of have a legal justice
Nice.
lens.
So it makes complete sense that you want to write on Abbott Elementary. One, that's like right on brand with what you have. What are the other two shows that you wrote that you wanted to write?
I don't watch other TV shows. I watch more docs and films. Sorry.
He said, I
But
only watch Abbott Elementary. That's it.
yeah,
Well, it's perfect because it's a perfect show for you.
but it's comedy. And I want impact to come from Abbott. I just don't want it to be funny. It's like, what's next? Because it's actually the first 2 episodes of season 1. Like I was traumatized because it's not, it's very real. The first 2 episodes only, then it got off into comedy. but it's real, and I want something to happen.
Yeah.
It's not just fun and games.
I love this.
It's a-
Everyone can tell kind of what Stacey's bringing to the table, what stories Stacey writes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the two filmmakers though would be Spike Lee and Ava DuVernay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Those are great. Daniel, did you have TV parents? Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay is perfect for Stacey. It's okay if you don't. I just wanted to make sure I gave you the opportunity to share it.
TV parents as in okay.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to make sure I gave you the opportunity. But Stacey,
My dad's Neil Gaiman. That's all I know. So
dad is Neil Gaiman. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll think about my mom for.
We have Neil Gaiman. We have a descendant of Neil Gaiman in the room. We have Spike Lee and Ava DuVernay. I think, Stacey, that's really accurate based on what you just shared with us. And I haven't read a single piece of your writing, right? And the point of being able to talk about what you sell is you don't have to read a single word. I have so many fans of my writing that have not read my writing. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that absolutely bonkers? I have so many people who are like, oh, they pass me on to people and they're like, Tristan's a great writer. I'm like, you don't know. I've not sent you a script. Why do you say I'm a great writer? Like, I am, but I know I haven't sent you anything. But they know what I'm selling. They know what I'm bringing to the table. And that's sometimes enough for people to be able to pass you on and refer you. Valerie, do you want to take a moment to tell us a little bit about what you're selling? You're unmuted. You're muted.
There we go. Thanks. You're awesome. So kind of the quirky, an awkward, quirky, daydreaming underdog, kind of hiding from others, but wanting to be seen, like putting on the mask, but wanting to not. And I really enjoy writing stories of becoming, and dropping all the like that story, and I don't know if it's true, but about Michelangelo, and asked how did he create that how did he create David, and he said, it's easy, I cut away everything that wasn't David. And I like writing the stories of the cutting away.
Nice.
To reveal the truth. And so my background would be growing up as basically raising myself, alcoholic parent, and absent dad. So but not wanting anybody to know that, and having people over and not wanting them to see that there's no dining table because the stepdad took it when he moved out of the house and that kind of stuff. But wanting to be accepted and seen, but don't look at me. So those are stories that I write.
Yeah.
There's not anything funny about it, but it's I'm really, really drawn to justice issues for oppressed people, and particularly children who are they have no advocate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nice job.
Thanks.
I really can see all of that in you from the very little I know about you. Have you watched Baby Reindeer yet?
Yes. So that's so funny, because I see you as a writer for Baby Reindeer. I was gonna blurt it out. I was like, oh, Baby Reindeer.
I'm obsessed
Totally.
With it. But I was actually gonna say that for you, because just like the chipping away at the character, and I feel like you have the very poetic sense to your writing. Am I wrong by saying that there's a little
no,
bit
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
You feel like you would, that Michelangelo thing, I think, is great. I think you should definitely say that when you pitch yourself, because I think that says a lot about just how you view the craft, and how your structure is, which is chipping away everything until we get to the bare bones of who these people are and who these characters are, and potentially how broken they are and why they're so broken. Which structurally I thought that they did in Baby Reindeer, which is why I thought of that. And that just
totally they did, right? And it wasn't until the end, and you're like, oh,
wow, this has been a character study this whole time. Wow.
Yeah.
Which I imagine a lot of your work is character studies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any TV parents that you want to share with us?
It's so funny. I don't have a mother yet. When I'm thinking about this,
it's pride. You don't need a mom.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I feel like what's his name? The guy that I couldn't, Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, like that, or in The Mask, like he's all over the place.
Yes.
And just that is my dad. Like, to me, that's
Jim
my TV
Carrey-esque.
dad, right?
Jim Carrey, love,
But I
love,
don't know
love.
who the mom would be.
I like that. All right, so we're like we're like a dark Jim Carrey. But honestly, Jim Carrey now is way darker than he was in his prime years.
Yeah, go way
anyway,
back,
so
Jim
you're
Carrey.
like
Yeah.
yeah, nice, Valerie. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see kind of what more you write, and I think that you've depicted that well.
Oh, thanks.
Olga or Shauna, you want to share with us what you're selling? If you know yet, and there's no wrong answer. This is a process, right?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so identity and background. So I grew up on a steady diet of picture books and books by my lovely mother. She instilled my love of reading and stories. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ community, and I'm a daughter of an immigrant. My dad is from Iran. And so those are sort of the biggest things that have like shaped my perspective as a storyteller in terms of the kinds of stories that I want to see, LGBTQ stories, authentic ones, and not depressing ones. And just stories about, immigrants and all kinds of marginalized groups and that sort of thing. The types of stories I like to write are funny and feel good because I just want to make people laugh and take a break from the depressing reality that is life sometimes. And I like telling authentic stories as well. I'm really drawn to camaraderie because I think I was a bit of a lonely child, even though I have 3 siblings. My expertise is the only thing I can think of is that combined with these perspectives that I have, I am largely self-taught. In my writing, producing, and filmmaking, I didn't go to film school for this. I kind of just learned everything and absorbed from other people. Um, my TV parents, I would say, my TV mom is Desiree Akhavan. She is one of my favorite female filmmakers because she's also queer and Iranian. And I love her style. And I'm not 100% sure who my TV dad would be, but it would probably be someone like Greg Berlanti.
Yep.
I think I'm saying the last name right.
Berlanti, yeah.
Berlanti, yeah, or someone like that.
I see that marriage. I see that marriage clearly. That's a great pairing.
Yes.
Do you know what's also great about sharing your TV parents? And this is kind of just a little tip. People then know who you want to work for eventually. You know what I mean? Like if you say I'm so and so and so and so, people are like, okay, I know they want to work for Ryan Murphy and Michaela Cole. I know that Tristan wants to work for those people. So now when Shauna says that, they're like, okay, I know that Shauna wants to work for Desiree and Greg.
I mean, that would be a dream come true.
Right? But there's like something fun about telling people without telling people I want to work for so and so by being like I'm inspired and
definitely inspired.
And the piece of these people, then people hear, oh, if I ever have an opportunity at Berlanti Productions, then that's something that I need to pass on to Shauna, right? So it's just a way of kind of communicating where you want to end up. Who do you want to be your fucking boss? Right? Tell us. Tony, Olga, you want to share anything before we move on?
Yeah, I can go. I just wrote this, Tristan. This is different from my before, but inspired by everyone and by this conversation and this pointer. So I'm Olga Gabriz, a multilingual first-generation Russian immigrant who writes dark psychological pieces about self-acceptance and figuring out what the hell to do with your life. I grew up with a single mom who worked too much and a grandfather who drank too much. So I've seen this nitty-gritty underbelly of family dynamics and socioeconomic issues from a young age. So my reason to write is to self-medicate, but also help others heal. Having rebuilt my life from scratch more than twice, I faced mental health and socioeconomic pressure that led me to focus on introspective dramas exploring the meaning of life. Having spent a decade in big tech, I also mix in dark tale of humor and interactions with tech and humans and what it means to be human, make your own decisions. And my TV parents would be Ozzy Osbourne and Helen Mirren. I'm like a child of the two.
Outstanding. I can say from what I know about you, all of that is accurate, right? I love that element. I loved how you kind of justified the tech world in that writer brand. I think that was very, very accurate to what I know about you. Ozzy Osbourne, Helen Mirren is hilarious. I would say what would I say about that? It shows the kookiness of you and the layers of you in a really great way. But I would want to make sure one of those is like a showrunner. One of those is something like from the writer perspective, I would say I would change one of them to someone who can like actually hire you for a room, just so we
Okay.
can accomplish what I just kind of talked with Shauna about, which is like who can people send your scripts to, right? Who
Yeah.
can people send it? Not just actors, but I would make sure one of them is a showrunner. But
No,
I
Sam
love.
Levinson can be my daddy.
What'd you say? Which one?
Sam Levinson. I'll adopt him.
Yeah, like I think like Ozzy Osbourne and Sam Levinson is really interesting. I think that's really interesting. Because what these do is they just make people, oh, like if they haven't read you, they can start picturing what your scripts are, right?
Okay. Awesome.
Nice job. Oh my gosh, obsessed. Really great job. And also, I love that you were like, this is new. Your writer brand should evolve.
Mm.
All right. So the more you kind of get aware and the more patterns you start catching in your work, the more scripts you write, the more you start keep honing in on your writer brand. Like right now, a pattern I'm catching in a lot of my scripts is I write about livable apocalypses. And I don't know, I haven't really incorporated that into my writer brand yet because I'm still massaging it out. But I'm like, oh, okay, it is whether or not they know it, whether or not it realistically is or not, for the protagonists of every one of my scripts, it feels like the end of the world. And I write about how do they survive through the end of times, and the stakes are always there. Whether or not it's actually a nuclear apocalypse or not, it doesn't matter. But the writing I do, it feels like this is the end, right? Um, an idea for a queer zombie apocalypse series feature, so I love it. Absolutely, right? I kind of love I love apocalypses. I also think I'm manifesting just like this being the last century of this planet. Like I'm good. Like I really am good.
Not before we all sell our TV shows, though, Tristan.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. The revolution will be televised. Tony, do you want to share with us what you're selling, and then we'll move on?
Sure. I describe myself as an evangelical pastor turned progressive pastor turned filmmaker, dad of 3 teen daughters who likes to poke and question religion, explore spirituality, grief, and purpose with writing grounded, messy, ridiculous characters who find redemption in strange ways and chosen family in sacred yet marginalized communities.
Absolutely. And that is very. Did you do that just now, or have you always?
I just wrote that up. Yeah.
That's really good. That's very
Yeah.
good. Use that. Use for sure. Use that.
I think, yeah, I know I've heard this before. Like, we should have a personal log line. I'm like, I need to have that somewhere so I could access it all the time. I think I can share it all the time, but I haven't written it down. But yeah, I'll play with that. I had a hard time figuring out my TV people. And I also had a hard time with this. I do tend to write, or I'm interested in entertainment and industry, shows and stories like Hacks. So like Lucia Anello, Peter Downs, and Jen Statsky would be like my trio, mom, two moms and one dad, I guess.
Love it. We love polyamory. It's perfect.
Right. There you go. So I thought too, like, should I put that on my log line? Because, Last Chance Charlene has an element of the industry. I just did a short about, a theater group, so I really love telling stories. And there are a lot of that, right? From Entourage back in the day to Hacks currently, to Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's a lot of entertainment industry shows, so I love that kind of vibe.
You're so well spoken. It's insane. It's really, really quite insane. That's really good. I'm really glad that you have that now. You're gonna repeat these things so often that you're not even gonna need it scripted anymore. This is gonna be just how you talk about yourself in this way. And as you continue to build and massage out, like I just said, I'm currently massaging a new element of my kind of writer logline, my writer brand. It's hard to be self-aware when you're just wanting to create. So like be that annoying friend who asks your friends, hey, what TV shows do you think I could write on based on what you know about me? Right? That's kind of what Facebook is only good for at this point. Just like give your friends polls, give your friends surveys. Ask your friends, be that annoying friends to read you and find patterns in your work that you aren't able to see. So that's something that's great. Like when your friends are reading you, even if you don't want like notes from them, you can be like, do you sense any patterns? Do you sense like what's my voice to you? That's like the bare minimum of what anyone should give you when you ask for a read from your friends. Not everyone has to give you a whole note session, but the bare minimum anybody who reads you should give you is, what kind of voice do you get from this, and who do you think I am as a writer based on this? Because it's going to help you hone in on what you're selling and hone in on what you're selling. And sometimes you can't do that when you're the one who wrote it. It's impossible. So make your friends and acquaintances put mirrors up to you. There's always a through line in your work, whether it be underdog stories, whether it be fucked up families, whether it be putting a microscope under religion, and satirizing some industry stuff, as Tony said, whether it be queer stories in apocalypses, whether it be, you know, advocacy work, whether it be technology and making and the choices that we make that make us spiral into dark corners of our psyches or whatever it is. But there's always a through line, and that is what your story is and what you always write about, which is how we started today's session. And it's most always intrinsically linked to an aspect, a personal aspect of who you are. So I really appreciate everyone kind of being vulnerable and sharing some parts of yourself today that maybe you haven't shared with each other yet. That's okay. Writing is vulnerable. Storytelling is vulnerable. Hiding is not going to sell your work, right? All of us have had experiences that have shaped us, whether they be dark, traumatic, shitty, beautiful, whatever they are. But that's going to be part of what makes you stand apart, right? So thank you so much, everyone, for being vulnerable. I had a bunch of other stuff that we don't that is really getting into nitty gritty of what a pitch is. But the only thing I want to do before we take Shauna's question, and then we're gonna just kind of talk for the last 10 minutes. So Shauna, don't lose that. Put a pin in that. Don't lose that. Is just kind of when you will be pitching and what types of pitching you'll be doing at this stage of your career. So like you're always going to be pitching yourself as a writer. So what we just did is something you're going to be doing every single time you sit down for a coffee or a general meeting or lunch with anyone in the industry. That is just something or at a mixer where I met Stacy. Like that is just something that you're going to have in your back pocket and you're just going to always have. That's who. Tell me about yourself. Boom. You just told us. You just crafted something when someone says, "Tell me about yourself." And that is going to be a writer pitch. That's something that happens walking down the street, at the coffee shop, on meetings like this. You're just always that's what I mean. You're going to say that so much you're going to be annoyed by it at a certain point, right? And you should say it so much where it doesn't feel like it's even scripted anymore. You should say it where it feels pretty casual, which I feel like all of you were pretty great at that already. But you're also going to be soft pitching ideas, which maybe we'll do another mastermind about. Not about writer brand, but about idea soft pitching. And soft pitching is really, really hard because that's going to be what you do the most until you have a prominent project made that people recognize. Because once you have a prominent project made that people recognize, you're going to be having formal pitches on ideas because people are going to take you more seriously on a different level. But until then, you're going to be soft pitching dozens of ideas at a time and basically doing that thing where you're like, oh, I have this idea, looking at them to see if they're interested. They're not moving. Okay, and I also have this idea, looking at them to see if they're interested. And I have this story too, until it's kind of throwing things at a wall. So maybe we'll do another mastermind, Tony, about kind of how that soft pitching works and kind of how to pull out the hookiest part of your project. And really like structure, and that's why a perfect log line is really important, because it's about finding that hookiest part of your project to make people go, oh, tell me more. Tell me more is the best thing you want to hear. Tell me more, always. But it's about finding that first little piece of information that makes someone lean in and go, tell me more. And that's kind of soft pitching. Formal pitching, we're not even going to worry about right now, because that's going to be something you build with your reps and make a 20-30 minute presentation with, and whatnot. But what you're going to do all the time is just soft pitching. And half of that pitch is going to be who you are as a writer and your personal point of view of the project. I'm going to stop talking, and we have 10 minutes. So let's just talk about kind of where our brains are at, what we might crave a little bit more information on, what you're working on now and what you're struggling with when it comes to this type of work. But Shauna, I know you had your hand up.
There you go. Yeah, I had more of a comment than a question when you were talking about getting like feedback from your friends, sharing, your scripts with them and stuff, and not even asking for notes necessarily, but being like, okay, do you sense like any patterns, any trends of like my writing in general? And I thought that I want to add my comment because I think it's so interesting the kind of feedback that I get from my work when I share it, because primarily I do short films. I've only done one other web series so far, which is my very first project, very amateur. But when I share my short scripts with people and I get feedback, a lot of the time I get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, I could totally see this as a show or a series. Like you're gonna continue this, right?" And I just think it's so interesting because when I'm writing this, I don't write it from a perspective of, "Oh, I want to turn this into a show," which is not to say I'm opposed to that. It's just when I started off, like my objective is to write it as a short, but I just think it's so interesting that I'm getting that like feedback from people and the fact that I'm like in this mastermind thing about TV pitching, and it's like, it's kind of like turning the gears in my brain right now.
I
So
like
just wanted
it.
to add that.
All of a sudden, Mastermind feels very villainous.
Yeah.
Like, yes, turn the gears, turn the gears. I love that. I mean, listen to people, right? Don't listen to stupid people, but listen to people. Everyone has an experience when they're receiving your work. And whether or not it's helpful notes or thoughts, it's a valid experience that they had, right? And that's kind of every note giving. Like sometimes people will give really stupid notes, but you have to find the note behind the note and see what the experience that they had was. But I was a playwright, and really a hobby playwright for a very long time while I was working professionally as an actor and director in New York. And I wasn't considering TV writing at all until I started producing some staged readings of my stage plays, and people were like, "What happens next? There's more, right?" So the same exact thing you're getting, Shauna. And I was like, "What do you mean? What happens next? You just sat through 2 hours of people reading a play. What the do you mean? What happens next?" And I got it so many times with like 3 or 4 different of my plays that I was developing, that I was like, "Oh my god, I'm making worlds that are too big for a 2-hour stage." The pattern is there's more here. The pattern is these worlds have legs and these worlds are worth exploring. So that's when I started taking TV seriously. But I wouldn't have done that if people didn't do exactly what they're doing with you, Shauna, which is what's next. What's next? What happens next? And not what's next with your career, but what happens with these characters next. People would get so invested in the characters. And I was like, oh my God, or in the worlds. And I was like, God, I just didn't think about that. I didn't think about what that would look like 5 years later. But um I'm glad I listened to people, because now I'm like I love doing this type of work more than I ever liked writing for a stage. And I realized I was writing TV all along. You know what I mean? Um, and now I don't even know how to write a play anymore, because I'm like, I don't know how to write something that ends in an hour and a half, 2 hour. I really don't know how to do that. But yeah, listen to people, Shauna. I love that you're getting that feedback. The feedback is going to be invaluable, especially if people can see more than one piece of your work and sense a pattern between the two. That's just so helpful. Has anyone else been able to get any feedback like that and sense patterns in your work, or even in other people's work, that you've been able to catch? This is free form time. We could talk about anything too.
Yeah, so I had a table read for my short script last week, and it was with educators. And so I ended the Zoom. The Zoom was an hour, but I said you can stay on because people were still talking. And so I had a former superintendent on and a teacher, and they were going at it. Like they were getting into it for like almost another hour. People dropped off, but they were still going on. The teacher dropped off, but the superintendent kept talking to me. So, I stayed on. I didn't want to be rude, but he ended up telling me that he apologized to the teacher. And so other people told me that that's what my script sparked in them, this conversation, which is what I want. So those in higher positions like superintendents to talk to teachers, because they don't. So it brought out what I wanted it to.
Absolutely. That's the point. Yes. You know, Keegan Michael Key plays the superintendent in Abbott Elementary in this last season.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But that's awesome. Like that's a great experience. Did you learn anything from their kind of banter and debate about the work, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I recorded it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That the superintendent didn't want to understand the teacher's perspective. And that's the problem.
And because I know some of your work, Stacey, just to affirm you, I think that's, you've got a niche audience. You know who your audience is. You're speaking to people who care about education. You're speaking to educators. You're speaking to parents. You're speaking about kids, to kids, which is really great, because sometimes we hear you should know your audience, and sometimes we feel like, well, we want everybody to watch this. But that's a great example of getting to the right people with your work.
You know your niche, yeah. And being able to talk about controversial topics in the education field from an educator and from the child of, you know, a descendant of educators. Like, you have a whole educator family. I love, that's meaty. That's really meaty. Good for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, though. I'm listening to Shauna and Stacey with this experience of people asking for more. Like with my short effervescence, it's in my mind, it was complete a finite story. It was about two people. They're dead. They're dead. There's nothing else. They're going into this beautiful light, and there's just something waiting for them. We don't know what it is. But I had a few people asking, like, what's next? Like, how is it going to be? Like, what are they going to be like? Are they going to accept it? They're going to fight it? They're going to try to do something with it? Like, what's it's like beyond the board room, so to say? And then the director of this project, he actually wants to see if there could be a mini series, or it could be a feature, it could be something else. I'm like, guys, this is like, they're dead. You know, there's a tunnel, but we're looking into ways to develop it into something else, and even potentially showing more of the life before this happened, before they got onto the train, to kind of like show what led them to making this choice, or what made them to kind of like to consider this option, to not exactly flashbacks, but really start from before and then get to the end of the train. So that could be a possibility, which I did not think about before myself. It was like, okay, let's just shoot a movie. Let's make it happen. But there are a few other people who are asking questions, and so it could happen that there will be a more effervescence coming up.
I am obsessed. I mean, audiences love to make connections. Like, we as humans love to make connections, and we love that's why do you think Marvel Multiverse is like everyone's, you know, like, we love things that connect. We love when characters cross over. We love prequels. That's not just business. That is human nature. We love to get more information to the story, and we love things to be fleshed out. I just watched Saw 10 last week. Outstanding piece of film, right? But Saw is basically television. It's just long episodes of television at this point. But like, it's a prequel. Things that we never knew we needed, right? That's kind of, and when when audiences are kind of asking for more, it's like, we want to have more things to connect to. We want more connections. We want more of this world that we can start we want a playground. We want a playground to start playing in, because that is where, like, I think we really, as humans, really have fun, and we really thrive. So I'm very excited for the effervescence multiverse here. I'm really into it. How is post-production going on that, by the way, Olga?
Oh, we're having an urgent meeting today at 1, but it's just talking about special effects. But music is going, everything is in progress. We have we have 3 weeks. That's how much we have left.
Yes, you do. Yes, you
So
do. Because you're premiering that. Would you know what date you're premiering it yet?
July 13th at
All right.
2:30 p.m. If
I
all goes
believe
well.
in you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tristan. Thanks, Tony, for making this happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Tristan. Tristan's coming back to talk acting. So we got to spread the word. This is only our 3rd session, so it's so great. So those of you who missed and are watching on the replay, spread the word. Let us know what you think of this. And Tristan will be back. Tristan, you can come back anytime, even when you're not presenting. We would love to have you.
I'll probably come back and hang, because
yeah, definitely.
I'm always down for starting the week with one community, which, when you watch that that John Mulaney clip I sent in the beginning, he talks about why LA has no community. But I'm always down for community. I'm always down to start the week with just like, let's get our gears going this week, guys. It's a work week. We're creatives, and it's time to work.
And Tristan's on social media, so find Tristan at Tristan J Shuler. Also, Tristan will be at the film festival. It's all about these building relationships, right? And don't forget, all of our members get 50% off all access passes, 50% off all of our tickets to any of our events. And then any of the mixers we do are free for members too. 20% off all of our classes, screenwriting and acting classes. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. See you next week. Thanks, Tristan. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to
Bye,
meet you.
everybody.
Thank
Tristan.
you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Have a great
Awesome.
week.
You too.
Bye.